Mr. Lalansky,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz, Mr. Petruno,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mrs. Mendez.
Here. I'd like to draw your attention now to Sunshine Law, Statement of Videotaping, and Public Comment Statement. We won't read it in full, but just make sure you take a look at that. Also, there's no smoking on school grounds. Can we all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment of silence for two people. One was a former member of the Board of Education, Cynthia Green, and another is a 7th grade student, David Pacula from Marlboro Middle School. David Pacula was a young student whose untimely departure has left a void in the hearts of those who knew him. May his memory be cherished, and may his loved ones find strength in this difficult time. And another moment of silence for Cynthia Green. In remembrance of Cynthia, a dedicated former Board of Education member with a long-standing commitment to the community, may her contributions be remembered and may her legacy continue to inspire those she served. We extend our heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, and loved ones. So now we'll observe the moment of silence. Okay. Moving on to student recognition.
Good evening, everyone. For student recognition this month, we here at MTPS work to cultivate social emotional character development values and skills through our monthly Character Pillars program. At the Abbott Early Learning Center, we are excited to continue our Character Shines program for a second year in a row. We have here many of our Abbott Early Learning Center students, some of the staff, so thank you staff who are here, parents, and other community members. And Mr. Perno, would you like to come up and just have a few words with the group before we get started?
Can I take this? There we go. Okay, good evening, everybody. So our Character Shines program started last year, and it's based on the character pillars. So we have a committee that meets at the building monthly, and we were looking for a way to recognize kids and really motivate them to try to do the right thing and make good choices. And so the gist of it is each month we have a kickoff where we have a theme day, and then teachers work to quote unquote catch students engaging in that kind act or good act, and then they earn a ticket. Tickets go in a bucket, and then at the end of the month we have a weekly newscast, and at the end of the month we have a drawing, and there's 3 kindergarten and 3 preschool winners chosen, and they get to do a special activity with me in the afternoon. We not debated, but we talked a lot as a committee about what we thought would be appropriate, and we really thought it was important to emphasize play and cooperation and giving the kids an opportunity just to kind of come together in a relaxed environment. So it's been good for me. My kids are a little older, so I get to go through the closet and find lots of old games that we haven't played in a long time and pull them out and bring them in. And so on a Friday afternoon, the kids come down, we meet in the foyer, and we play, we've played Jenga, and we've had freeze dance and all kinds of silly things. And so it's just been a really fun way to encourage kids to do the right thing. So tonight I do have a group of students here who are going to tell you a little bit about what the program means to them. I think we're going to play a video first. Is that, we do have a short video.
Students in Miss O'Donnell's 5th grade class participated in a fun and educational gingerbread-themed lesson. Working together,
citizen.
Good.
Being kind and help people. Saying good words. Be nice to your friends.
How else can we be respectful?
By putting your folder and using jumping. And if somebody has something, then always say kind words for it. Kind just means that you help a friend that falls or gets hurt, and you bring someone to a nurse.
Can you tell me, what is a Character Shines ticket?
It's a kind of card. It's a kind of card that you get when you help friends. Really good choices.
Very good. And how can you get a Character Shines ticket?
It can be good on the playground. For being kind and helping the friends that you see need help. And I need bananas. For being kind. For showing respect. I got it for looking out for each other.
For looking out for each other. Perfect. And what did you get a Character Shines ticket for?
For having lots of good choices. Me and Wyatt were doing a great job on the kitchen. Helping one of my friends.
I love it. Do you remember what you got a ticket for? What did you get a ticket for?
I'm clapping for Ellie. Really good. It's really great when you feel really happy. Happy and excited.
And how did you feel?
Same as Anaya. I felt really happy about myself.
Really happy about yourself. And how did you feel?
Super duper. I felt really play a game with Mr. Arnold. And he eats snacks with Mr.
And I have one student here whose name was called on the morning announcements. What happened after your name was called?
I played with Mr. Perno.
What did you get to play together?
Jenga.
How was it?
It was very fun.
Love it. Good job.
So I have to give credit to Dr. Beery for creating that for us. She did a wonderful job. So we do have several students here tonight. We're going to share just a little bit of a personal testimonial about their experience with Character Shines and what it means to them. So listen for your name. I'll call you up. Let's start with Hudson. Is Hudson here? Here comes Hudson. Come on over. Hey, buddy. You remember what you're supposed to say? Come on over. Good. All right, ready? Okay. Take it away, please.
Hi, my name is Hudson. My teacher name is Mrs. Russo. I got my ticket pulled for citizenship. My teacher says I'm a team player and fearless in my learning.
Rock star. You did such a good job. Can we have Hayden come up? Hayden. Here he comes. Okay, come on over here. Why don't we come right over here so everybody can see? Okay, do you remember what you're supposed to say?
My name is Hayden, and my teacher is Miss Russo. I've got my ticket pulled for citizenship, and my teacher says that I am full of generosity and a fantastic role model.
Super job, Hayden. All right. How about Angelo? Come on up, Angelo. Come on up, come on.
My name is Angelo, and my teacher is Miss Wolkowitz. I got my ticket pulled for respect. My teacher says that I am a strong thinker and very responsible.
Super job. Super job. All right, Mia, come on up, Mia. Come on over.
My name is Mia, and my teacher's name is Miss Arvalaga, and I got my ticket pulled for citizenship. And my teacher says I am also good-hearted and cooperative.
Good job. Super job. All right, Michael, come on up. Where's Michael? Oh, there's Michael. With that sharp tie. Come on over. Okay, ready? Go for it.
My name is Mikey. My teacher is Miss Carmen. I got a ticket for positivity, and I'm also a problem solver.
You are. Super job, Michael. All right. Ellie, come on up. Oh, there you are. Come on over. All right, are you ready? Okay, I'm right over here in the middle.
My name is Elle, and my teacher is Mrs. Caro. I got my ticket pulled for respect. My teacher said that I am also a great listener and a great gentle friend.
Super job. Super job. And Gia, come on up. All right, are you ready? Okay.
My name is Gia, and my teacher is Mrs. Cotter, and I got my ticket pulled in for respect. And my teacher said I am kind, and I spread sunshine.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Super job, boys and girls. You did a great job tonight. And parents, thank you for practicing with them.
Mr. Perno, thank you so much. And to all the kids, you were fantastic. You knew your lines, and it's so nice. And it's such a nice thing that you're doing and giving them these tickets for character. I think it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, student impact.
Okay, students at Defino Central in Miss O'Donnell's 5th grade class participated in fun and educational gingerbread themed lessons. We now have the first video that was shown to you, but now here it is in real time.
Students completed various gingerbread reading comprehension activities, learning how they're made, its history, and traditions around the world. After completing each activity, students earned a new piece to their gingerbread house and were then able to ice them and decorate them with various candy. Additionally, students worked together in teams to complete a gingerbread house escape room. They had 4 challenges to complete to solve a puzzle in order to move on to the next challenge. The 4 activities were all holiday themed, and it was a fun and engaging lesson as students headed into winter break.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Donnell and the 5th grade class. I'd now like to make a motion to take a 5-minute recess. So if the families want to get everybody home to bed, you can, or not. You're welcome to stay. Whatever you'd like to do. Can I have a second? Okay. Discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, 5-minute recess. Thank you. Vinny, if you can take roll call, please.
Mrs. Balomo,
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi, Mr. Hyatt, Mr. Olansky,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Here.
Mr. Petruno,
Here.
Mrs. Seward,
Here.
and Mrs. Mendez.
Here. Artwork on display.
This month's featured art was created by artists from Asher Holmes Elementary School. So if you make your way over to the board office, you can see that beautiful work. The 5th graders created a pop art self-portrait by painting on transparency film. The 4th graders created oil pastel flowers by Georgia O'Keeffe, and the 3rd graders created a bridge over water lilies influenced by the art of Monet.
Thank you, Mr. Balone.
Welcome.
Announcements?
So I do have one. I would just like to thank all of our staff for this morning. It was very difficult, and it started with me very late last night. So thank you to all staff who came in, especially buildings and grounds with their cleanup, our custodians in the buildings. Thank you for making sure that our buildings were safe and free of snow this morning. Our drivers, I went down early this morning at transportation and met with many of our drivers. We actually have, not sure if you're aware, but we have what we call snowbirds. I always thought those were people who went to Florida for the winter. But our snowbirds here at MTPS are drivers who come in early and they clean off the buses for their colleagues. So thank you to all of the snowbirds who came in early and drove safely today. Our buses were safe. Maybe slightly late this morning, but that's okay. We'd rather that than the alternative. So thank you all for your diligence, teachers, staff, everyone, for getting in. And not making an official call for tomorrow yet, but we'll see. It's very icy out there. Thank you.
And thank you for getting the kids in safely today. We appreciate it. Also under announcements, so I'd like to make a motion to accept Christina Rosado's resignation effective January 3rd, 2024, when it was submitted to the board. Can I have a second?
I second the motion.
Discussion? I just want to thank Mrs. Rosado for her service to the community on the board. I'm sorry, did you want to say something, Aldo?
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
I just also wanted to thank Christina for, you know, all the time on the board that she spent, the hard work. You know, we both were elected in the same year to serve on the board and ran together, and you know, I cherish the time that we spent up here together, and I look forward to, you know, the many years of friendship that we still have. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. I just, again, wanted to thank you, Mrs. Rosado, for your time on the board. I know you served 2 years and, you know, ran through your campaign, and so we thank you for your service to the community and the hard work that you put in. So thank you. Okay, so all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, so just to clarify for everybody, so since the resignation was accepted, the vacancy for this seat on the board will open tomorrow, 1/17. You could submit your resume to Mr. Caravello, and it will close by February 2nd. So I just want to make sure that you all know that. And then on February 6th, the interviews will be conducted here in public. And then pending how all of that goes, somebody will be appointed that evening. So we just wanted to let you all know. So it closes February 2nd, and the interviews will be conducted February 6th. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So when I said it was opening tomorrow, it will be on the MTPS website. There will be a section there for board vacancy. It'll kind of go through the criteria, what you have to do, what you have to submit, and you can always reach out to Mr. Caravello. He's phenomenal with that, and he'll be able to provide you any support you need. Okay?
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify, so we're going to do the interviews and appoint a new board member that night?
Yes, on February 6th. Okay. School bus driver and building maintenance personnel.
Yep, all abstracts were run and all have privileges in good standing.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to just move a few things around. We're going to go to committee reports. So, communications, Annette?
The Communications Committee met just a few hours ago. Myself, as the chairperson, would like to officially welcome Michael Alonsky and Chad for joining the committee with me this year. We had a nice discussion regarding the January 22nd coffee chat, where the topic will be the school budget, starring Mr. Caravello. I'm happy to announce that Anthony, the owner of Red Tomato, has graciously donated pizza for the night, so we'll have childcare and some skinny slices for the kids. We'll also be providing toys, everybody's favorite Play-Doh, movies, arts and crafts. Mr. Ballone, Ms. Gross, myself, the board members will all be able to keep an eye on the kids so that you can spend some time in the coffee chat. We spoke about things like different ways to reach the community and let the stakeholders know about this coffee chat, because although it is something that the board is hosting, it's definitely something that we feel is a topic of interest to everybody that pays taxes here in Marlboro. So we're hoping to collaborate with Township to get the word out for the coffee chat. We're going to be working on a staggering schedule, because I'd like to invite the new board members also to the meeting, but we just can't have more than 4 at a time. So in executive, we'll be discussing if the new board members would like to come and if we could stagger the schedule so that anyone who is interested in attending the night can come at a certain time. Things that Vinny will be discussing in layman's terms will be bank cap, adequacy, reserves, different grants, and things of that nature. So please come with your questions. It's definitely going to be an informal event. You don't have to come for the 2 hours. Come whenever you can. There's no set schedule. It's just an open conversation. Please, I encourage you to come and learn. The next topic is going to be drug awareness. We have a policy that requires us to inform and educate the public on drug awareness, so we're going to be using the vehicle of Coffee Chat to host that. The date is to be determined, but we definitely have the topic for, hopefully, the March Coffee Chat. So not only is it something that we are proud to offer, but it's something that we are required to do. So I'm looking forward to that as well. If you have any questions, the email is always open, and I appreciate the new feedback for this meeting. It was definitely very helpful to have a nice, new, fresh perspective.
Thanks, Annette, and thanks for coordinating that. Looking forward to it. Michael, Safety and Security?
Safety and Security Committee met. We welcomed our new members, Mr. Hyatt and Ms. Gandhi. And we brought our new members up to date on the timeline and implementation of all security measures currently in place in our district. Mr. Slattery, our safety supervisor, then gave the committee the latest update on our threat assessment teams, and we all had an open discussion, always looking to improve or add security measures where needed. As a district, we never want to become complacent, especially in safety and security. As a result, the committee will be bringing some recommendations to the full board for discussion in executive session. I would like to add that Marlboro should be proud, knowing that as a district, we've always been ahead of the curve in the area of safety and security. And that is due to our amazing SROs, armed officers, Mr. Ballone, our superintendent, our BA, Mr. Caravello, who continually provide security-supported budgets, safety supervisor, Mr. Slattery, and his team of dedicated security monitors, members of the threat assessment teams, and all our dedicated staff who are truly our eyes and ears. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being a part of safety in our district, because it takes everyone. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Okay, so we moved committee reports. If you're looking at the agenda, I just wanted to kind of clarify that. So I'm going to cover policy, but before we dive in, I just wanted to put this out there. I know there's been a lot of conversation regarding policy 9191, which is brand new, which is educational foundations, and I think a lot of you are going to have some comments, which we're looking forward to. So what we've put together here, what I have that I kind of put together just today, was just, I kind of put a presentation, a couple slides together, literally just putting the policy, the draft that you all read, or some of you read, on some slides. I'm going to kind of just quickly cover the bullets of it. This way we can kind of make sure that everybody's on the same page. Then we're going to turn it over to public comments. Now, as you know, this is a first read, so we really do welcome your feedback. I say that every month, like your feedback really is a gift to us. Because it's a first read, I'm hoping that we can come to some sort of collaborative end result here where we take your feedback, we take it back to the policy committee, we bring it to the board, we come back and have conversation with you. So if there are things that I think some of you are concerned with or not in agreement with, we really do invite you to come up and share that information. So anyway, so I will pull it up now. Thank you. Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, okay. All right, so what you see here is really just your first draft. I'm going to get out of your way so I can see it. So this is just the overview. I'm not going to read everything here, but it kind of just goes over before official recognition will be granted to any educational foundation that is organized for the sole purpose of supporting the school district. The entity must be approved by the superintendent or designee and then sanctioned by an annual vote of the board upon review and approval of the following requirements. So what I do want to say is one question that came up before was, why are you putting this or putting a draft out now? On August 9th, we did receive notice that the Marlboro Educational Foundation would be folding or dissolving. And so at that point in time, it forced us to kind of say, well, if a new foundation were to be formed, what would we do with that, right? What parameters do we have in place? And we didn't really have any in place at that point in time, which was why we then said, as a board, it would matter to us to kind of put something together. Now, thankfully, right, the MEF is still functioning and they're still here. So they did come back and say that, you know what, we've decided not to. They now have new leadership, which is Mrs. Salachi. She's here in the audience. And so I just wanted to say that that was one of the reasons or the catalyst for us to formulate this policy. So these are just some parameters here, right? They're going to certify that they adhere to the policies and regulations of the school district, obtain their own insurance, right? When conducting fundraising activities or monetary donations, right, they must not use the name of the school, district logos, or mascots in any of its promotional materials. They can, as long as they first obtain the approval of the superintendent or designee, right? Makes sense. We're going to use the logo. They just want to make sure that it aligns with, you know, the policies of the school, the goals, and the vision of our strategic initiatives. You'll also see there that the foundation will obtain signed written approval of the superintendent or designee before conducting any fundraising activity or requesting donations in the name of the district, right? So if you're going to do some great fundraising for Marlboro Township, all they ask is that you just kind of get the approval first from the superintendent so he kind of knows what's going on, right? So he's looped in and not surprised if someone asks him any questions. The foundation, whichever it may be, shall not make any representation that their organization or activities are sponsored or endorsed by the district without prior written approval of the superintendent, right? So if there's going to be some sort of event, they just ask that Mr. Ballone is looped in and that he understands the purpose of the event, what it's for, what the money is going to go to. There's also a policy out there, that one's been out since 2014, which is 5830, pupil fundraising. The other one is that annually report at a board meeting on the activities conducted by the foundation during the past year. So we've had some families who just reach out and they just say, hey, I know the MEF is out there. What are some really cool things that they're doing? And so to advertise that great work and to kind of give that, you know, that glimpse to the community, we just ask that, hey, tell them everything, all the cool things you did this year. And then annually or upon request to the board for all fundraising activities intended to benefit the district, just include appropriate financial documentation as requested by the school business administrator. And then there's that nothing shall be construed as the board's assumption of responsibility for any activity conducted, right? So it's the board, it's not the board conducting it. The board does reserve the right to disallow any foundation or rescind its official recognition if this policy is obviously not adhered to. But we know we rely on foundations to operate in a manner consistent with public expectations for the school and reserves the right to withdraw recognition if it's not in the best interest of the school district. Now, the board may appoint one of its members to serve as liaison to the foundation who shall have a right to attend its meetings. I think that one came up, I've people were asking that question, that's already in place, right? You have a liaison. Your liaison this year is Annette Seward, so that's not a change. There's always been a liaison, and so the liaison is still Mrs. Seward. And then you just have that information, and that's kind of the gist of it. And so a couple of pages of that, but we will now open it to public comments.
Okay, the first name on my list, Mr. Angelo Delgodis.
All right, I'll duck down. Oh, here we go. All right. So thank you for moving the agenda items. I got to get to bed, you know, being an old man now. But I do want to make a quick comment. Mr. Malone, I think this morning, I was out on the road early, and it was great to see the buses a little bit late start, but kids seemed to get to school safe and everything, and really good to see. And knowing that in other towns, I think they canceled school, so it's good to see that Marlboro had the kids in school today. Parents probably like that as well. But I did want to make a comment or two about the policy that you just spoke about. As some of you know, I attempted to get on the board a little while back, and haven't been to the meetings in a while, but have been watching from afar. And it's great to see the good work that's going on. But with this one, when I read it the other day, it just caught me by a bit of surprise that the Board of Ed wants to get a little bit closer to nonprofit organizations. I get a little bit of what you say, Ms. Mendez, with regards to just knowing what's going on. That, and then trying to instill a policy to take some control over it, and then at the end you say, you know, some of this miscellaneous stuff, this is not what the board's trying to do. I have to say, you know, as a retired professional, this seems to be one where I think the board may be overreaching. As well, and I don't know the MEF that well, but I do know some of the folks on the board there, and I know a lot of the great work that they've done. It feels to me, as a member of the community and possibly someone who contributes to that foundation, that there's something going on between the MEF and the Board of Ed that can be resolved by maybe just having a coffee, or, you know, just discussing what maybe you don't like. I don't think that a policy is required by the board to get more control, because then what do you do with things like PTOs who act in the same vein, and maybe it's not a 501c3, I don't know. So I just would ask, as you consider this, and I know it's the first reading, just to think about the optic of what we're trying to do and what's in the best interest of the community, because the community gets, you know, monies or provides money to these foundations. And if they see that the Board of Ed is taking more control or seeking to take more control, I don't know that that's the right look. So I would just ask you all that as you continue forward with this proposal. Thank you.
Absolutely. Would you mind staying for a second?
Yeah, sure.
So I can ask you a question. No, I appreciate it. So we remember, right, you can speak, and then you answer your question, and then you have one more thing. So I genuinely am asking this for anybody that comes up. I think I'm just curious to know. I think the piece where some of us are struggling is, where is the overreach, right? So getting permission from Mr. Balone regarding the use of the logos, having a liaison which has already been in place, and, you know, things like that, and asking to present to the community on an annual basis. I'm genuinely asking the question of, please tell us which part people feel that is us overreaching or trying to control it.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's just the fact that there would be a policy that sits within the Board of Ed, right? If that's something you want from the MEF, then I think that as adults, you should suggest that. And I would think that the MEF would say, yeah, that makes sense. Because, I mean, some of what's being asked for doesn't seem outrageous, right? It doesn't seem like it wouldn't be agreed to. for me, as a taxpayer in this community for a long time, to see that the Board of Ed is now wanting to put a policy in place over education foundations, right, or any 501c3 that would seek to provide some type of support to our public schools seems a bit too far for me. So it's more, I want you to think about the optic of what this means, right? Because this is going to go on, right? There's going to be a policy then that is going to last beyond the years of all of you being on the board. And for me, it feels like a reaction to something that, I don't know, maybe you guys were out to dinner and somebody said something that you didn't like, and now it's, okay, well, we got to do something about that, right? And I read I think it was the August minutes where, the MEF communicated that they were potentially going to dissolve, and then they came back and they changed their mind. So it feels to me, Ms. Mendez, like there's something not right here, and I get there's a liaison on the board, and that's great. I don't know that a policy is what's needed to correct whatever wrong may have happened. And I speak not knowing anything more than, hey, I was looking at this, and I think I texted you the other night saying, hey, I may come down to the board, not knowing that I was going to speak. And then I saw this, and I'm like, I want to say something because it's not sitting right with me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you coming. Continue coming for
Yeah.
sure. And thank you for that. That's
Okay.
helpful. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Can I just speak on that real quick? Because obviously I didn't really have an opportunity to work with the MEF last year, so I asked if I could stick around as liaison this year. And Ms. Salachi and I have already been in communication. We have already plans on a better relationship between the board and the MEF, and we're both excited for what the new season of the MEF is going to bring. So as far as any narrative that's being spun that this is this was something that just, like Ms. Mendez said, this is just something that came into play when we sat back and said, okay, we might not have an MEF. What does this look like for the future of educational foundations? And how can we put a policy in place to protect us from that? It's not what the MEF does, it's how the district accepts donations. It's not the control the other way around. So I just want to make sure everyone knows this is not personal. I'm already speaking with Ms. Salachi. There's no like personal vendettas here for myself. I'm speaking for myself anyway, but I know that you ran a few years ago, so I know that you were involved with our previous superintendent being the superintendent, and he was on the board of trustees for the MEF. So I know you like to see things separate, that the MEF should function on its own separate from the board, but in previous years, our superintendent was an ex officio on the board of trustees. So I don't see that as being separate at all. There was also years where many members of the board sat as trustees on the MEF. I don't see that as being separate as well. I'm just stating facts. I'm not saying that I feel a certain way about it, but everyone wants to see a separation, but in previous years with no policy, our superintendent was listed as an ex officio on the board of trustees. How is that separate?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? If maybe, I don't know if Mr. Zittimer or Val, perhaps even the MEF, if, they have a representative present that knows the answer, but in the event, so when that August email came, stating that they were going to be dissolving, had that occurred, had that actually gone through, what would the process have been? How does that work in terms of the district finding a new one? That was initially I think that was my concern, because when we got that email, I was like, oh man, what do we do now? And then to look at the policy and see there actually isn't one, that was that kind of did bring up another concern. So the MEF and the district, they work hand in hand, but it's basically like a one-on-one relationship, correct? There's not a situation where we would have multiple foundations, right? So that's what I was getting at. You're not allowed. So it's essentially, it's an exclusive relationship between the two, right?
Yeah, so just a few things on that, Aldo. So yes, technically, I guess in a different world, you could have multiple foundations that were out there. Is it ideal? No, but you
Right.
could do that. That's not the goal here, though.
No, I understand that, yeah.
Absolutely. But your question was what would happen if that had sadly happened, right? If the MEF had dissolved. When that announcement was made, Mr. Ballone had a few people that were in the audience, parents in town, who reached out and said that they were interested in forming a new foundation. Now, at that point in time, right, however that transpired, I was not part of that conversation. I know they spoke with him directly. So if that were the case, right, we were thinking to ourselves, what would be the parameters in place? Not just because of the MEF, but solely for a district, this district, to accept funding from a foundation, any foundation for that matter, whether it was a new one that was potentially going to be formed, whether it was the MEF. That's where this new thing came into play. There was no other kind of thing that people were transpiring of or trying to control it. It was dissolving. We started the process to look at what would we need in place to accept funding from another foundation, and that's how that came about. But you were going to say something.
Yeah, there was also an open question when we were informed that they were going to dissolve. Did that mean they were going to the IRS, which controls 501c3s, and tell them to void their certification, such that we would have to basically apply to the IRS all over again to start a new foundation, which is a long, time-consuming, and could be expensive process? We were hoping not. And then we wanted to look, obviously, to the bylaws of the current foundation and those things, and we realized we didn't have anything to even look to kind of answer some of these questions.
Okay. But that wouldn't, ultimately though, it wouldn't be, like, that wouldn't be the board or the district. That would be like another group that would come in and want to do that.
Correct. The board
right?
wouldn't play any
Right.
role in that new foundation.
Okay.
That would be some families that came forward that would start that process. And to Mr. Zittimer's point, it would be a long and time-consuming process to then apply again for a 501c3, which is then when they had reached out at that point in time to ask to utilize that if it was dissolving, so that the district wouldn't kind of be crippled in that way, that they couldn't start raising money through a new foundation, because that would ultimately not help the schools, right? And so that's where that came about. But again, they came back and they said, we're going to keep it in place. And, you know, here we are. So that's where we go
All right.
today.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Rob Marone.
Good evening. MEF is a nonprofit organization that operates independently from the district. Its autonomy is recognized on both the MTS website as well as BOE Policy 9500.1. IRS regulations, state statutes, and various other guidelines all require local education foundations operate independently from the Board of Education. There are also various other IRS rules, laws, and requirements to establish and maintain 501c3 status in general. For these basic legal reasons alone, I was very troubled when I saw Mr. Zittimer's letters to MEF. I would like the board to advise what specific legal authority it asserts it has to attempt to take possession of MEF and appoint replacement trustees to take over the organization. If you do somehow feel it was within your legal authority, do you really feel like doing so and the way you handled it was ethical? When you learned MEF would not dissolve, you made several demands, like appointing board members as trustees and other operational changes to the organization. Not only would your demands breach MEF's right to its autonomy, they would also violate the organization's governing documents. After learning that after learning all this, the board then, via Ms. Risotto, announced that it was going to help form a new educational foundation, which is another action I believe goes beyond the board's power. Finally, you now propose Policy 9191 as a way to usurp the organization's right to govern itself. While many districts have similar policies to 9191, none of them contain the far overreaching demands it contains. 9191 has many provisions that if any nonprofit agreed to, would immediately jeopardize its autonomy and likely even its 501c3 status. Any organization not only shouldn't agree to comply with 9191 as it's currently drafted, most probably literally can't, as the requirements to comply would violate their governing documents. Board members, take a step back. I know many of you on some level or another. One of you I consider a friend. None of you likely knew about these letters that were sent to the MEF and were not involved. But what went on here was not okay. It's a massive overstep of your authority. The board's actions reflect poorly on itself, the district, and the township of Marlboro. So I'm asking you to take a step back and consider what has gone on here and the optics they create. Recognize your authority is not limitless. Table 9191 for now. Sit down with the MEF. Collaborate together to come up with a plan that works for you all. Thank you.
Mr. Marone, thank you for speaking. Just a few things. So I can't speak to all of the different things you said. You can come up or not. So if you want to speak, you can. If you want to speak again, you're more than welcome to. Just a few things. So I can't speak to everything that you referenced, right? Because I may not have been in the loop for all of those things, so I don't want to speak incorrectly. One thing I do ask, though, is that we aren't trying to take over the MEF, and I know maybe it feels that way to some of you. I genuinely am asking that question, but I do want you to know that's not our intention here. But I respect everything that you just stated. I think my question, again, is the same one that I asked Angelo, is just, in some of that, what feels in this policy that I reviewed like we're trying to take control? I think that's my real question.
I think it's the chain of events that have occurred. And so, like I said, and I mean it, you know, we're friends. I don't like being on this side having to talk about this. So 9191 really isn't my biggest issue. I think 9191 in a vacuum by itself, like I said, other boards of ed have very similar policies, but not containing all those things.
But Mr. Marone,
to have an organization agree to that they will open up their membership to any, or trusteeship to anyone who applies, they simply can't, you start to overreach and you really start to jeopardize the autonomy there. They can't agree to that.
Yeah.
There's actually legal matters to it. So it's not the entirety of the policy. My bigger issue was the letters that were sent to the MEF, quite honestly.
Okay.
And I do feel like it, I don't think it's, I mean, I guess it's subject to interpretation, but it certainly looked like, give us the organization's governing documents so we can hand it over to someone else.
Okay.
Which is not, it's not the board's organization.
Yeah. No, thank you for the clarification. And so on that, I do want to say the one thing about the appointing other people in the community, what it says in there is just they should be open to other community members that may want to get involved as long as they meet kind of the parameters or requirements of the MEF. In no way does it state that you have to let everybody on. It does say that in there, and I understand what you're saying. I agree, they can't have everybody there, right? So it did say that piece, that they should be open to all the wonderful people in this community that want to be included, as long as they meet the criteria, which I understand what you're saying. But I get what you're saying. Maybe it's not the policy itself. Maybe it's the way some things were handled before, and I appreciate and respect your response. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, sorry, just for my own clarification on this also, was the policy, did the policy mention anything about opening anyone in the community who wanted to be a trustee, or was it just to be a member? Because I was under the assumption it was just like.
Yeah, it says new members.
Okay.
It should be
open. Is there a
open.
distinction between trustees and members?
Yes, the trustees, from what I think we were told, were people that have designated some sort of funding, but I can't speak to the ins and outs of it because I don't really know. So all I could say is that it just, within the policy itself, says it has to be open to members in the community as long as they meet the MEF's criteria. Not ours, it has nothing to do with us, as long as they meet their criteria.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just heard Rob Marr just come up and ask the question, so this is pointed to Mr. Zittermer. They mentioned that some of the stuff that's in policy 9191 could jeopardize their 501(c)(3) status. Is that accurate?
No, I don't agree with that. As a matter of fact, we have an attorney in my office who exclusively practices in the area of 501(c)(3) law. It's not my area of expertise, and I fully vetted this policy by her to make sure it was fully compliant with IRS code, 501(c)(3) regulations, and so forth. So, respectfully, I don't agree with that statement.
Mrs. Gensalaci?
Hello, Jen Salachi. Okay, so I'm going to read what I wrote and then any questions or whatever, because a lot's been changed. So I feel open communication between the board and the foundation is essential. As soon as the new Board of Trustees was elected, I feel that you could have come to, or Annette told Annette to come to me, because we've been talking, as she said, and said, you know what, Jen, we're working on this. Maybe we can get your input. I think that's what hurt me the most, was this came out and I had no idea. And I was like, what is this, right? So just so you knew where I was coming from. The new board, we are happy to come and tell you everything. In fact, you can even go look it up online for the past 22 years. Everything is there. Our 501c3, everything is there. I'm still trying to get everything from the past president. You know, I work full time and have children of my own. You know, you all get it. So I would love to just sit down with you and the policy committee and Annette and work this out and try and figure things out. We already thought we would come. I've been wanting to come up and do a presentation on who are we? Who is the MEF? How can you be involved with the MEF? Yes, we would love to have members. And we actually don't have members, we have trustees. So come to the meeting, learn about it, and then become a trustee yourself. So really, that's my whole thing. I was just very hurt that there was no communication, and this was just like a welcome to it, slap in the face, you know? So that's that.
Absolutely. So I want to say a few things. Thank you for saying that, and apologies if you felt like, you know, your feelings were hurt or it was kind of just not done appropriately. So apologies on that piece. I do want to say you are invited. We will send you an invitation to the next policy committee meeting, which will be February 2nd, and I'll kind of give you the time for that. You are more than welcome to come and have the conversation with us before this would even move to second read, if it moves past first read today, okay? So you're more than welcome. If you can't do that day, I know I had emailed you asking you, tell us when you're free, and we will make sure that we're available to meet with you and review it as well.
Sounds good.
And by the way, anytime you want to come and give a presentation and talk about all the great things the MEF, you're more than welcome to do so. Just let us know in advance.
Awesome. Yes, I'm putting something together, so it will be happening.
Absolutely.
But I do want to keep this open communication between the Marlboro Educational Foundation and the Board of Ed going. But I just,
as do
but
we.
Not like that.
Absolutely.
Not like how it was.
Understand.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you all.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Jen, I just want to thank you as well, Thank you as well for coming up. And listen, there's no timeline. This is only a first read, as you know.
Right.
Nothing says next month has to be the second read. So we hope to get together, like you said. And if it's not ready by next month, it won't be on the agenda for next month. So there's no, like I'm saying, there's no train running down the track that we have to worry about. If we don't do this in 10 minutes, it's all over. So I'm looking forward.
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to thank you again for everything that the foundation does do and it will continue to do.
I love it.
Okay.
It's my favorite.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean,
you.
at the end of the day, we all have to agree that the children are the main beneficiaries and they shouldn't be lost in the sauce. So as long as we can just continue to work together to make sure that our staff and our children all benefit from the beautiful work that the MEF does, I obviously just want to keep reiterating, though, that this is about the board's parameters as the beneficiary. It's not telling anyone what to do. It's just our expectations on how to receive it. So I just don't want that to get misconstrued because nothing was personal. And we have spoken and we have discussed how this is, you know, we're turning over a new leaf and to be patient because it's all a learning process. But you reiterated to me a few times that you're not really sure of even, you know, like where to start, so to speak, because there's just so much from the last couple of decades that you have to now acquire. So I do thank you for stepping up. I know what it feels like to be a working mom and a volunteer, and there's just not enough hours in any day, but this was in no way personal. So I am sorry as well if you took it personally, but that wasn't the intention. It just was board information that I didn't feel was pertinent to share at the time until we came to first read, and then we would be able to discuss it like this in the public. It was not a snub.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I just wanted to add one thing, because taking into perspective Mr. Marone's comment about, you know, it felt like the board was asking to take these documents and then pass them on to someone else. I actually appreciate you sharing that perspective because I hadn't thought about that, like how it could have been perceived that way from, you know, the receiving end of the request. And I don't think that was the intention at all. The intention was just when we realized there was nothing in place, and it was like, okay, you know, well, maybe we need, you know, let's see what the organization, you know, like how it is made up, because I have no idea. I'm just learning now that it's all trustees, and so there is no members, it's all trustees. You know, that's, I just made a note to myself, but that being said, I think it does go, you know, from what Mr. Marone said about taking the documents and the feeling that they were going to be passed on to someone else, I could see the concern on the MEF's part about then not wanting to release the documents, but, you know, that's not, I just want to reassure the MEF and Mr. Marone that's not the case at all, you know, so I appreciate you bringing that to light because it wasn't something I had considered, and, you know, that kind of does make me see your perspective a little better, so thank you.
Next, Mrs. Alicia Thor. Okay. Mrs. Farabono.
Hi, Farabono. How are you? Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Ballone, fellow community members. I have to tell you that as a resident living in Marlboro my entire life, my children have benefited from grants that the Dugan and middle school teachers wrote from the Marlboro Educational Foundation. And as a teacher in the district, my students have also benefited from the Macho organization where my actions can help others. And I appreciate all the community members coming out and speaking tonight and feeling their words. But as a teacher, I always teach my students that words have a connotation and a denotation. Straight up dictionary definition, this is what they mean, and the connotation of how they make you feel. Regardless of the words written in this policy, it's being felt and it's being interpreted by the community. And I just want the board to take into consideration, because as a teacher, I write that grant, I follow the district guidelines, I get my certificate of liability insurance, I outline everything, I vet the program, I wait for approval, all because every year, and I'll start coming next month as a community member to implore you to go to CAP, we know the budget is tight. And there are funds that we just can't get that we need in order to best educate your children, my children, our students. So I hope that together we can come together as a Board of Education, as an administration, as in a community to do what's best for the students of Marlboro.
Thank you, Mrs. Bono.
I have no more on my lists.
Welcome back, Mrs. Bono. We missed you.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that wants to speak that may not have signed up before, that maybe you just want to come up and say something? You're more than welcome to now. Okay. Well, thank you so much for everybody that came out to speak today. Motion. Sorry, I turned off my mic. Motion to close public comments. Thank you, Michael. Second. Discussion? All in favor?
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
To table the...
Sorry,
we're just closing public comments.
Okay.
Then you can give your
Yeah, because I'd
piece.
like to say something about that.
Of course.
Let's just finish closing the public comment.
Okay.
So I think we were at somebody second that? Second.
Okay.
Discussion, I think.
Discussion, nobody had any discussion. All in favor? Okay. Public comments are closed. Dr. Miskowitz, go ahead.
Now, I'd like to make a motion. I've shared already with Val some of my concerns about the policy. And my concern, we are all here. The MEF is here, the teachers are here, the community is here. We are all here for the kids. We wouldn't be sitting here on this cold winter night if we weren't dedicated and putting our first thing on our agenda, the children in Marlboro. So I would really like for the MEF and the policy committee to sit down, and I don't know which one it was, I was writing down everybody's names, but I don't know them. So but maybe if you have a conversation, you could get a little bit more input from the MEF and learn how they operate so that you can know, because you admitted you don't know how the foundation operates, because that's not part of the thing that you've been involved with. So I would really like to make a motion that we table this for now until after you've met with them, and then see what things can be, because there's a lot of good things in the policy. And we do need some type of a policy, maybe, but let's find out what we need and what we don't need and what they have and don't have. Because, I've never been on a foundation. I've accepted grant monies as a teacher from foundations. I've gone to different events, but I've never been a member of a trustee of a foundation. And that's a big commitment, monetarily and personally. So I don't want to lose any of these people. This is a big thing, and this is important to the community. So my motion is to table this for the first read, and after you meet, if you would like to, then come back with something that we all can grasp and agree to.
Thank you. I think you wanted to clarify something.
Hi, Dr. Miskowitz. Just to be technical, it's really a motion to postpone, not a motion to table.
Okay.
And it would be a motion to postpone. You would fill in the blank, postpone until, and they're supposed to be kind of until the next meeting, until a meeting happens, whatever you think is appropriate, and then she will ask for a second on that motion.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to postpone till the next meeting, to our next meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have discussion. I disagree with that approach, since the first read technically has to be accepted in order for changes to be made. Is that how the policy writing?
The policy, technically, it can go both ways, right? So if we postpone, we can always come back and have a first read if this doesn't go through first read.
Okay.
But I understand your point is you can make changes after the first read as well.
Right.
Go ahead.
If it's postponed, if the motion carries, if at some point in the future it was the will of the board, it would be brought back at that point for another first read, and then it would still have to go to a second read.
Right. I struggle with it being about the MEF, because we hypothetically saw how fragile that was this summer. So I think that these parameters should be in place for any future educational foundations. Like, I don't think that this is personal against the MEF. I think that's where I'm struggling, because it's not the board versus the MEF. It's the board as a beneficiary for an educational foundation. So I'm struggling with that, because there's a lot of history, and I respect it, and I appreciate it, but I also know that there's a tremendous future. So if the MEF does dissolve in 10 years from now, and a new foundation is formed, are we supposed to just conduct ourselves the way that we had with the MEF, without these policy parameters? Because that's where I struggle as a board. We have to make sure that we're doing what's best ultimately for the board as the beneficiary, not so much to protect the educational foundation. That's why the bylaws are there for the 501c3. That's what protects them. So I just want to figure out how it's personal against the MEF. I know, I hear what you're saying, and I understand, but this is just, for me, to protect us in the future.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to have can I just speak?
Yes, of course, it's discussion. This is our discussion. Absolutely.
I'm not saying not to have a policy. I think we should have a policy, but I think we have to learn more about how MEFs work before we put a policy together, so that because I don't,
Well,
I don't know
the
if,
refreshing part. They're starting fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but they know the background. They know how to run it.
Yeah.
So I think right now, by postponing it and having the conversation, I think you people, you on the policy committee will understand more of how they operate, and you could bring it back to us so that we know how how their foundation works, how a foundation works, not
Right.
their foundation, a foundation.
So I have a couple of things to add to that. So to your point, right, agreed that 10 years down the road, if this were to happen again. But I feel that the MEF has done an incredible job for the community for the last 20 plus years. So I think we owe them at least that much. If they're taking certain things personally, and it's just a matter of tabling it for now or postponing it to better understand where they're coming from, working together, and then if a policy is needed, we go ahead and put it forward, right? But I think that if we hastily move this to the second reading, I feel it's a disservice to the members of the MEF that have served this community for such a long time.
I disagree. I don't see it that way.
I also want to make it clear, so Mark, if I'm wrong, correct me, but after we meet with the MEF, if there's substantial changes to the policy, it comes back as a first read again.
Correct.
It does not come back as a
Yes,
second.
it does not
Correct.
come back as a second. Of course.
And like I said, unless anybody disagrees with me, there's no timeline, we have to do this at the next meeting.
No, of
or
course,
else.
and Ms. Salachi's been very transparent.
No,
about
understood,
needing
but I still
time,
feel-
and she even signs her email, President.
No, I
in
get
training
it,
the
and I
other
understand
day.
that there is a second, that this is not the final reading, but I still feel that if the MEF has done such a wonderful job, and if they're feeling a certain way, it is a new leadership that has taken over, correct? So let's give them some time to pull stuff together. We're not rushing, because we know they're not dissolving
course,
anytime
but
soon.
we have
So
new
there's no
leadership.
purpose of rushing this at all. I think that the
No.
right thing to do, and I second Dr. Miskowitz's motion to postpone this. I think we need to, as a board, really sit down, and you heard, Jen Szilagyi just say that, yes, she's willing to come and have a conversation. That alone should justify us postponing this. Have a
Understood.
conversation, update what we need to, and then move it forward.
Yeah, no, understood. And listen, all points are valid, and thank you, Dr. Miskowitz, for your motion. I think just a couple of points, at least for me, for the discussion is this. One is that there's no race to the second read, so if this goes through first read, we can absolutely meet with Mrs. Szilagyi. The offer stands that whenever she's free, we will try to make ourselves available, and there can be changes if needed to before the second read. And if there's significant changes, it will go back to the first read, and then it has to go back to second again. So that's kind of the process and how it goes. But sometimes it seems like we're mentioning the word personal, or we need to know how the MEF operates. This policy is in place for how the district accepts money. It's not a personal thing. It's not because of how someone feels. The policy is in place for the parameters for the district to accept money from a foundation. On a side personal note, we never want anyone's feelings to be hurt or felt like they were snubbed the MEF because they did some good work for the district for many years. We're not discounting that. But this is solely how will the district accept funds from any foundation, whether it's an MEF, whether another one came along years down the road. This is not about that. But absolutely, everybody should give their own opinion. I appreciate it and respect it so much. That's just where I'm standing. So second read can be 2 months, 3 months from now. We can go back and we can have many conversations. So I respect Mrs. Szilagyi's role, and I will respect her role, and I will listen to her feedback, and I also took notes for the rest of the community. At least that's my own take. But absolutely, you all vote however you feel comfortable voting, for sure.
I just want to add more to that. This is not just the MEF. We have the community members that came out and spoke. We had a teacher that came out and spoke about this as well. So
Absolutely.
this is not, as a board, we have to do our due diligence. We need to make sure that we listen to everyone, right? And again, today, the community came out and spoke, and I feel that for that reason, we need to, as a board, really think about this before we move
You weren't
forward.
here for masking then.
Yeah,
You weren't at the-
absolutely. Absolutely. So
Also,
you're correct. The community came out. I respect it. And whether it's second read next month or second read in April, you're absolutely correct. Their feedback will all be taken into account for second read. Absolutely. I agree. But I appreciate what you said. You are correct.
Yeah, and
Sorry, I
also
want to
Go
ask one
just-
more thing.
No, you can
so
say.
if we're flexible, and I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit, I'm digging my heels in just a little
That's
bit.
okay.
But if there is that flexibility that it doesn't have to be next month, it could be 3 months from now, 5 months from now, then that's what I need to understand, that if the community has come and voiced their opinion, why the need to even push this through the first reading?
I think because some people, I appreciate that, and you're right, and you can dig your heels and you can absolutely give your opinion. That's what you're here for. I think for some of us, we stand behind what's in first read, right? So however the vote goes is absolutely fine. People either agree with what's written there, but we'll still take feedback from the community. So first read does not mean this is final. So after first read, feedback can still be taken, but I get your point. I think some people feel comfortable with what's in there, and some don't, and that is respected.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your feedback.
Please keep in mind too, even if like second read, it comes and it does pass second read, at that point then it's a policy that would be instituted. But at any point after that, if there's something that needs to be amended in that, it can always come back for, another revision and a first read. It's not that it's, cemented in there for all of time, so just so that you understand,
I get it. I'm just trying to save the board, the community, the time. I'm trying to save any kind of funds that goes into writing a policy, having an attorney review it.
It's all free by me.
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding. We have a whole committee, and it's not me.
expert.
It's our whole committee that does it.
No, I get it. I know you're the expert. I'm just trying to, my whole thing is, again, I understand that there are certain things in the policy that make sense to have in place and some that don't. But instead of, and I thank you, Aldo, I understand your point as well. But again, there's no point in having to rewrite and go back and all of that. If we could just postpone it from the get-go, just have that conversation with MEF, and then update it as necessary. I'm not saying that the board has to take everything that they're saying into consideration, but I think they should be consulted. Again, just, and I think you expressed that, which is great, thank you, and so did they. So why not do that instead of spending hours and time and money into several reads and changes?
Understood. And I just want to thank you, Aldo, for your point that you stated. That's good for the public to know. Policies can change throughout. They can change a million times. We have the threat assessment team, which is on here, that's changed a few times. So to your point, Aldo, this is, once it goes, policies in general go through second read, it does not mean they can never change again. The policy committee meets, we revise it together as a group with Mr. Ballone and team. And so I just want you to know that we can always make changes.
Likewise, there is already, hours of work put into, getting the policy to where it is now for first read. So that's why I feel comfortable proceeding. But I completely understand if you guys, wanted to table it, and we can, put that to a vote, and we'll
Absolutely. Proceed. Danielle, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just coming in as someone who was not on the board during those summer months, and then having worked on this policy, I've been involved with nonprofits for going on decades now, and I know that policy and procedure is the key to progress. So coming from someone who is like a younger mother, I feel that putting kind of a pattern of, just coming here, sharing what the MEF is doing, and engaging the younger community of parents who have younger children in the district will create something that's more sustainable over the years, because inevitably, as our children grow, our volunteer efforts grow as well. And I think that some of the things that we had visited in this policy would hopefully maintain a relationship that will allow us to keep the conversation going with any kind of foundations as our children and as the generations grow, making it kind of like a seed that's being planted for progress for both the foundations that we collaborate with, as well as fundraising efforts for the district. So I think that policies in place are really the breeding ground for progress for any foundation or effort collaboratively.
Agreed, but I think that, and I'm not disputing that at all, I agree with that. However, you can also not tie their hands and not let them do certain things independently, right? So if they feel there are certain things in the policy that is going to maybe prevent them from operating as an independent entity, then we need to take a look at that. And I think that's what I heard from the people that came and spoke today, that that's how they're feeling, and they're an independent organization.
Of course they are. Can we cite in the policy where we're tying their hands?
That's what I'm trying to understand.
And I think that will be the conversation that we have with Mrs. Salachi, right? That where in the policy wouldn't work for the MEF or any foundation, what they feel is tying their hands. I'm with you, right? If there's something in there, I know I'm asking people to genuinely point that piece out to us. So I know that they'll do that, but I appreciate the conversation. Any discussion? Go ahead.
If there are changes after you meet, that doesn't become a first read again?
Yes, that's the piece that I was saying before. So if there are significant changes, so a couple of
What is significant versus changes?
I'll explain that. So a couple of word changes is not, right? But if multiple bullets are changed or the spirit of the policy has changed, right? It's not so black and white what would be considered minor or significant. If it's a big enough change, which we'll obviously identify, then it goes back to first read. Okay? Any other discussion before we vote? Great discussion. I appreciate it. I appreciate members of the community coming out to talk about it. So we're going to take roll call now to vote on Dr. Miskowitz's motion to postpone our first read until the next board meeting. So roll call.
Okay, I'm going to start with the first and second. So Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mrs. Balomo?
No.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, wait. Let me just make sure you're clear on what you're voting for. You're taking roll call. You're voting yes or no if you want to postpone. So he wants to.
Yes. So yes for tabling or postponing.
Postpone.
Yes. Mr. Lansky?
Because I believe there should be a policy in place, but I am looking forward to sitting down, and I'm not putting, in my mind, there's no timeline, and everybody agreed, there's no emergency timeline here. I'm going to vote no to postpone, but I'm looking forward to sitting down with the MEF and seeing if we can hash this out.
So what's your vote?
No.
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 Mr. Petruno?
No.
Mrs. Seward?
No.
Mrs. Mendez?
No, but to piggyback off what Mr. Lansky said, I look forward to any potential changes that we will make in the future.
Yep. So the motion was not postponed.
Thank you for the discussion. Communications.
I have none.
Okay. The HIB report.
From the period December 15th, 2023 through January 11th, 2024, 1 incident reported.
Just want to call your attention to the meeting dates. We have February 6th is a workshop and February 20th is a regular meeting. Business Administrator report, Secretary.
Yep. So this is the monthly certification for the Board Secretary's report for December 2023, and then next is the payroll certification for the month of December 2023.
Thank you. Payroll certification, you just said.
Yep.
Okay, so we are going to move on. We did the committee reports. We are moving on to the presentation of the 2022-2023 school year audit. Thank you for hanging out.
I didn't have to follow up the kids, so that's always good as the auditor. So, hi everybody, I'm Robert Mulligan. I am a supervisor at HFA. I've been doing the audit for the last few years, so very happy to be here. I like to keep my presentation short and sweet, but if anybody has any questions after, I'd be happy to answer. So within our report, we have 3 opinions. We have our independent auditor's report, our report on internal controls over financial reporting compliance, which just looks at whether you had any control deficiencies. And then we have our independent auditor's report on compliance and report on internal controls over compliance. And that's when we look at your federal and state grants. I'm happy to report that all 3 of those were unmodified opinions this year, which is the best opinion that we can give, same as last year. So no control deficiencies, no misstatements to report. So all very good there. Just a brief discussion about some of the numbers. We had a change in fund balance this year, went down about $2.5 million, but that is the result of utilizing fund balance this year, doing a few projects. So the district used about $1.8 million between the capital reserve and the maintenance reserve this year to do some projects. You were able to replenish that at the end of the year, where we transferred about $1.5 million into capital reserve and $500,000 into maintenance reserve. All in all, total fund balance about $15 million, which is a very healthy number. No concerns there. One thing I do want to bring up, just because it is a significant change year over year, when looking at your reports, you may see that our excess surplus number went from about $300,000 last year to $850,000 this year. That's due to changes that were a result of COVID. So during the last 2 years, as a result of COVID, the district was able to keep 4% of their fund balance in unassigned, which means you can just use it as you wish. That has reverted back to the old percentage of 2%. So as a result, you can't keep as much in your unassigned. That falls to what is called excess surplus, which is used in 2 budget periods from now. So that's the cause for that significant increase. I'd just like to bring that up just because that did change because of COVID the last couple of years. In terms of spending, we did see some increases in expenditures, but nothing out of the ordinary. Obviously, with the economy, there is increases in how much everything is costing right now, so no real concerns there. And then the final thing that I wanted to bring up was your food service fund. So we saw about a $300,000 increase this year in our food service net position. Partially, you'll see that we had a decrease in our state and federal subsidies. So the last couple of years, our students were all given free lunch as a result of COVID as well. So that resulted in more subsidies for the district. So that was a big change this year. You'll see that your operating revenues went up. That's, again, because our students are now buying lunch again. They're buying snacks, whereas they haven't been the last couple of years. So when you see a big shift there, that's just the cause of that. So like I said, all good from our perspective. I want to thank Superintendent Ballone. I want to thank Vinny, Chris, the entire business office for all their help. The audit is obviously a lengthy and meticulous process, so we thank everybody for having us, and thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to thank you too, and I did hear that the district did well and fared well in the audit, and so I thank you for the report, and thank you, Mr. Ballone, Mr. Caravello, and Ms. Jelinski. I know you worked hard to gather all that information and help them out, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan.
Okay, the 2024-25 budget. You're up. Do I have your microphone, or you have it? No, you have it.
Wait, I couldn't answer the phone, but school was calling.
Oh, I'm
Any idea
sorry.
what this is
I
about?
just wanted to announce, Mr. Ballone did say that there is a 2-hour delay for anybody who's here in the audience or didn't get the call yet, so there's 2-hour delay tomorrow. Are you excited?
You're wonderful. You were wonderful.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So this is budget discussion number 2. So what we're going to talk about is, the first discussion was really getting into just the overall details of what we knew so far for the 24-25 budget. Tonight we're just going to go right into start talking about the departments. We're going to talk about transportation, technology, and security. Again, very informal. You don't have to wait till the end. You can stop me at any time and ask a question. So again, I like to start off with timelines. This is the new thing for 24-25. We love our timelines because we don't want to get confused because it moves very fast, this process. So just to rehash, in December of 2023, we do our enrollment projections. We begin the budget discussions with the principals. We have our introductory budget discussion as we did the previous meeting before the holidays. And then in January, we continue our budget discussions, what we're doing now. We have our individual discussions with our departments, whether it be curriculum, special ed. As the budgets start to come in, we look at them and we meet with them to just start discussing the fine details of everything that's in them. February of 2024, again, just continuing until we get those state aid numbers from the governor's address. We're not sure when it's going to be, anywhere between the February 24th time period to February 27th. he should make his governor's budget address, and then usually 2 days later, we receive the state aid notice. Once we receive the state aid notice, then we can finalize our revenues and really see if there is a surplus that we can budget more, or if there's a shortfall, which we start maybe having to cut to just meet that revenue number on the expense side. And then March, we come and we present to you the tentative budget adoption. So that usually is the March 20, whatever the third week is in March, we usually present the tentative budget for approval. And that is basically only for the county to get it, review it, give comment and feedback on it, and then if it is approved, we come back to you with the final budget adoption in April, May timeline. So everybody will get a budget binder, normally in February, when all the budgets come in and we have that number. Usually we give it to you before, we just continue to give you updated sheets if the numbers change, but you'll have a binder with basically the whole district budget in there by department, by school. Okay, so the transportation budget, you're going to see basically just highlight some of the different variances you're going to see up and down from year over year. From 23-24 to 24-25, you're going to see some of the biggest increases are your joint agreements and your contracted services. Now this is really due to just really having a lot of out-of-district placements right now, and also just seeing the services go up based off of the CPI, which I think is about 5.8 or 5.9% going into next year. So that's the amount that they can increase up to, and usually they do go up to that level. Some of the things that went down, you'll see lease buses went down. Now again, we're still waiting on stabilization aid and an answer. What we did in the fall is we applied for stabilization aid, for some who may not be familiar. And basically that was a way to try to offset some of the state aid you have lost throughout the years. The governor would set aside some money for districts that lost money to apply for maybe one-time infusions. We did get it last year. I think it was in the amount of like $3 million. And then, so he cut it in half, but he did another round this year. And so we applied for that in the form of about $1.5 million for things such as like staff Chromebooks, to purchase buses as we did previously. So we tried to do that to try to free up some wiggle room in the operating budget if we can kind of offset that with some of the additional aid we may get from the governor if the application's approved. Still have not gotten any word on that yet. So as of right now, we are building the budget with not having any leased buses in there. Usually we like to do a cycle where we replace 5 buses or 2 vans, or 4 buses, 3 vans, just to keep that cycle going, because the wear and tear on these things, you do have to eventually retire them and start new, start fresh. Some of the other things that you'll see, another slight increase is the aid in lieu. They did raise the aid in lieu payment last year. They might raise it again this year. That is usually set by the state. We have had an uptick in almost aid in lieu. We partner with the Frio Regional to pay that bill. They give us the roster, and then we usually just pay that. I believe it's twice a year. So it's usually in December and then once in June.
Can you just clarify for everybody what aid in lieu means?
Sure. So aid in lieu is, so the district will pay any non-public students who submit a B6T form any type of payment for driving their student to and from the non-public school of their choice. Usually if we provide busing, they fill out a form by a certain date. I believe it's March 15th. I may be wrong on that. And then we receive it, we approve it, and we give it to the region who handles all of ours. But then they get a payment usually twice a year in the form of, I think it's like $1,500 or $1,365 for the year, and they split that up into 2 payments so you get paid for driving your child to school. Again, joint agreements, we're seeing an $181,000 increase in the budget, and that's really due to just the increase in number of out-of-district students that we've had from year over year. Now we are working diligently just to try to bring some of those students back in if we can. If not, sometimes there is a need, or there is legal issues where we're forced to actually put them out of district. So we have seen an uptick in just having students just have to have a need and be out of district for that need. But a lot of them will start to phase out as they become 8th grade and they go into the high school. Again, increase for joint agreements. The CPI is set for 5.86%. We are budgeting accordingly that they are going to meet that figure. So we're just trying to budget really a 6% uptick in what it would actually cost from now until next year. Again, aid in lieu, contracted services. We have 2 additional contracted packages out there. We do jointures with Colts Neck, so they actually do take on some of our runs for the ones that we may not be able to meet, and we pay them to actually service some of our runs. And our runs just means just a bus run for maybe middle school, elementary school, just a package that may be open that a driver we don't have can't fill because we don't have enough drivers on staff. Another useful contracted service is a parental transportation contract. We budgeted more for those. That is pretty advantageous to the district because if you can get into one, it really puts a contract in between the district and the parent where the parent now gets paid for driving their student to and from school. It's different from aid in lieu. That is a parental contract that we set the parameters and agree with the parent, and they usually drive to the out-of-district placement of the student, or whether it be a residential placement or another public placement, but we set up that contract directly with them. And then the last thing was the lease and purchase buses. So we didn't budget for the lease, and we didn't budget for the corresponding camera systems that we usually put on the buses that we buy brand new. Those are 2 separate purchases that go hand in hand with each other. So are there any questions on the transportation department? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I was just asking, so when we purchase buses, it's not an option to have them come from the manufacturer, like outfitted with the camera systems that we would need?
No, usually they do not. We could spec it that way. You could definitely put that in the bid specs. We've found out that we actually get favorable pricing by separating the 2 and going directly to the source of the manufacturer. But we've had instances where we actually do have the cameras just built in with them too. It really depends on the cost. It really depends on what price are we going to get and which one's going to be favorable at the time.
Okay.
And usually we spread I think our purchase leases out over a 5-year period too. So we would just budget basically the total amount divided by 5. That would be the amount you would budget for the year.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next is the technology department. So you're going to see a huge increase for the total technology budget. This is solely really due to just budgeting Chromebooks. Again, last year we did not have to budget for Chromebooks because we got them through the stabilization aid grant. The ESSER grant. It's too many grants. It's too many grants that they're starting to offset. So the ESSER grant is where we actually were able to purchase Chromebooks to offset some of the money that we didn't have to put in the budget for last year. Now that funding's gone, we still need to continue the cycle of replacing the Chromebooks. So we are budgeting for about 600 Chromebooks to replace, and so that's why you see there's such a huge increase in the technology budget from the year prior.
I just had a question on the increase. So because of that, will that be the number you expect to see moving forward, the 100 around 97, or is that just, I know you mentioned the funding, would that be the number you should project moving forward?
For which one?
For the
100?
Chromebooks?
Yeah, usually we base it off of past bids, or we actually will get quotations from vendors now just to get an idea of how much they're going for and budget for that. But usually with that, we go out to a bid for cases and Chromebooks, and we actually get more favorable pricing than what we actually budget for, and sometimes we can get more than 600.
Okay.
There's been instances where we budgeted a certain amount of money, the price per unit will come back, and we found out we can actually get a little bit more with what we budgeted rather than less. So it always pays to go out to bid rather than just go with a quote to like a state contract vendor or a co-op vendor. We've had a very good success with doing that since I've been here, is going out to bid for that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Ben, equipment supplies, I know it went down, I see it went down, but like, that's still a lot. Like, can you give me a couple examples of, are there servers we're replacing, or?
Sorry, I have my notes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the equipment supplies that decreased, so we replaced our servers last year, so now we don't have to budget for that. So that actually went down significantly by $75,000. The other equipment supplies that are in there, so you'll have supplies like for Chromebook parts, you'll have supplies whether it be for printer parts, access point parts, And then there's other equipment in there, so you'll have access points, virtual servers, you'll have the VMwares, things that we continuously replace around the district, we continuously budget for, that become a cyclical cost. Some of the other things in here are so for like repair maintenance, again, you have other things in there such as just miscellaneous repairs that might not be included in the supply parts. The technical services part, where it's increasing by 41,000. You have fiber cable runs. Part of that is funded by E-rate. You have CDW cyber security reassessments. You have Windows and network support. You have programs like Virtuit. Just basically different types of technical services that we use throughout the district that we continuously budget for. Software maintenance is another big number, that top number. You have stuff in there for you have your software maintenance for your firewalls, your Aruba ClearPass. You have support renewals that we utilize throughout the district with TTI, Oracle renewals. You have the VMware and the VM backupware renewals. We use things such as like SysCloud Duo, so all that stuff is budgeted in the software maintenance category.
So then, are these something like we had discussed last year? Instead of, would it be more, like, would we get a better cost on these if we were, like bundling them into a multi-year package instead of doing them annually, kind of like we discussed with the software last year? Is that something we could do, like, look into for some of the other categories? Or is that, specifically just for, like, the software bundles that we were getting?
We definitely look into that. Sometimes we don't like going into a multi-year agreement with some things. Sometimes for it to be standalone is more beneficial in case we want to break off and go with a better service or.
Right.
But we constantly look into that, whether it be 2 year, 3 year, 1 year. Historically, the board has never wanted to go in like anything more than a 1 year if it wasn't advantageous, whether it be cost or something of that effect. But there are a couple of things that we actually do multi-year. I think. Which one do we do multi-year? I know the internet we do multi-year. We do that through E-rate for category 1. That's not budgeted here. You'll see that in a different budget, but we do that where we actually will do, I think, like 48 months or 36-month time period will actually give us a discount for doing a 3-year agreement rather than a 1 year. Mainly for internet, Altice, telecommunications contracts of that nature. These we usually stick to like really a 1 year agreement, unless they have something where they're willing to offer us a 1 or 2 year or 3 year that may be a little bit of a lower cost than just doing the standalone.
Right. Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so some of the things that are highlighted in the technology budget, so we're continuing our wiring project. This time we're at Memorial. Again, that's approximately $12,000 funded by E-rate, which is your federal source of funding for all your type of technological projects that may be approvable or allowable under E-rate. And then the district will budget the other portion just to really finish the project as a whole, but really only having to put, not the 100% of the amount in for the project. Same thing with the 10 gig fiber runs. We're looking to do at the 5 elementary schools in Abbott. Again, that's approximately $55,000, but $22,000 of that would be coming from E-rate, and $33,000 of that would be coming from the budget that we give to you in 24-25. And then of the replacement of the 8 domain controllers district-wide is about $28,000. Some of the highlights of what your increases and decreases are. Again, your increase in your software maintenance. We're looking at additional cybersecurity coverage, looking at a program called CrowdStrike. The annual renewals for our technology software, such as the things that I went over, like the firewall maintenance, the Google licensing, Virtuit, all those things, we reach out for them for quotes for next year, and then we budget accordingly with the increase. But we also assess and look at these programs if this is something that we want to continue, do we want to cut, do we want to just put off. But these are things that we see that are essential to how we operate our mainframe and our technological landscape in this district that really help us really get where we need to be and where we want to stay. The equipment supplies, again, we did the virtual servers already, so that's why there was such a substantial decrease in that line. And then the increase, again, is for the Chromebooks. So we're looking at doing for the incoming 6th in both middle schools, and then what happens with the older Chromebooks is we just start to trickle them down to the other grades. And then one of the other things that we usually try to do every 2 years that we're going to be budgeting for is the cyber security reassessment. So we don't do that yearly. We do that every 2 years. Usually when we do that, it's pretty beneficial to us because they'll come in, third-party eyes, they'll look at our basically just they'll assess how we're running as a district technologically, if there's any deficiencies, if there's any openings or breaches of any nature, that they'll actually do a full-scale report for us and give it to us, and then we'll take that and we'll use that and put in measures or controls in place to try to more reinforce it better or tighten it up so it doesn't continue to happen or we just don't have those issues anymore. So that's something that we always try to do. And again, our techs are great and our staff are great when it comes to monitoring that things because we have so many different support layers and so many different programs that they're able to rely on to constantly assess what's going on. But that's just another, a preventive control per se, just to have another set of eyes looking at what we're doing here. Does anybody have any questions about technology? Okay, the security department. So this one had the smallest of increases so far. This only went up about $5,000 total from year over year. Now, I don't want to get into too much detail about what's being budgeted in here when it comes to specifics, names of softwares or anything we really use, but I'll just go over some of the things. So the software contracts, you could see, only went up $473. We're continuing all our own contracts and all the software that we had. This is the actual increase that they gave us with that. So that was the only amount we really had to go up and budget for. The equipment and the supplies. We budget for things in the security budget such as first aid equipment, AED pads, badges, safety magnets, any other supplies of that nature that the schools may need or that are beneficial for the district. We always continuously budget in the security budget, so that's that line. And then your repair maintenance line, that's going up about $4,000. That's your various security softwares and hardware repairs or upgrades that we do constantly around the district, and we continue to just budget in that line as well. Your contracted services is your big one. That stays flat because that is the contract you have with across the street. That's your SROs and your Class 3s for the school district. So again, your annual renewals are really what make up your repair, maintenance, and software contracts. That's what's increasing. And again, I may not be able to go into specifics in public, but when you guys get your binders, you're more than welcome to come and schedule a meeting with me and go in detail with any of this stuff. I'd be happy to share it with you. Equipment and supplies, again, just nominal increases. One of the things that we're looking to purchase for equipment and supplies is just a new new printer for all the badges that we print out. It's kind of at the end of its useful life, so we're trying to get a new printer in the admin building to start doing the badges again. And then the professional development. Every year we reassess lines, and we felt like due to what we expensed last year, there really was not a need to continue with that number, so we decreased it just based off of the uses of how much that they've been using for professional development. But at the same time, we still leave enough in there for the training to be done for the security monitors and for Mr. Slattery. Again, that's one of the smallest budgets that we'll go over, but it's really one of the most important. If you have any questions, just email me, and if you want, you can always put the department head on there as well in case there's a question that you may have more specific that they may be better to answer. Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate when you present to us and go in depth, and we'll definitely be reaching out with a million questions. So thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Financial and business operation matters. Danielle.
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, list of bills. 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. 4, travel. 5, harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report. 6, home instruction. 7, approval of change order number 2, EACM Corporation. 8, approval of addendum professional service agreement between the MTBOE and ESS Northeast LLC. 9, MTAA memorandum of agreement. 10, Uniform State 2023-2024 memorandum of agreement. 11, approval of transportation agreement, case number 972, 2023-2024 SY. 12, out-of-district placement. 13, donation from scope. 14, donation. 15, audit report for the 2022-2023 school year. 16, further amended resolution. Omnia Partners contract purchase. USA Building Maintenance for roofing, siding, gutters, and related services for the 2023-2024 school year. And 17, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you. We have a motion? Second? Sorry. Michael? Any discussion? Go ahead, Aldo.
Yeah, I just wanted to see, are we able, would you guys be able to maybe for the next meeting, just give us an update on how we're doing with ESS for number 8? To see, like, I'm sure, I know last year we were discussing fill rates, or it may have been 2 years ago at this point, just to see where we are compared to where we were, like, right after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right, thank you.
The same format we've been giving with the.
Yeah, just to see, like, I know the ratios, like the fill rate had gone, way higher after the year after. So I just want to see, like, where it's at now compared to 2 years ago and last year.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood? Mrs. C.
Yeah, I don't speak whale. That was yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt? Yes. Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
And Mrs. Mendez?
Yes. Okay. Aditi, personnel matters?
Before.
Oh,
sorry.
no, personnel, you're just going to read on that page?
Before,
and then-
Mrs. Gandhi, before you start reading, personnel number 7, it looks like there was a teacher left off. So before we even read or vote on anything, I just want to bring to your attention that personnel number 7, full-time teaching staff, we need to also include Jennifer Veltri.
So
Yeah.
under number 7, you're just telling us to include another name there?
Yes, it'll be Jennifer Veltri, teacher of the language arts, MA Guide, Step 7, $73,635.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Aditi, so you're going to go to personnel matters, and then you got it?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, you don't have to read the individual name. I just wanted to let you know under the item number 7, that name should be included in there.
So for, just so the new members feel good, right, when your name is called, for anybody who's new, if I'd said, Ms. Gandhi, personnel matters, you just read 1 retirement, 2, right, and then you would go from there, and then the heading, just the headings alone, I don't want you to think you have to read thousands of names.
Thank you.
And then at the end, when you're done with it, you can just say, I so move, and then we'll move from there, okay?
Yep. Okay.
personal matters, retirement, number 1. Number 2, resignations. Number 3, employment, certificated staff. Number 4, employment, kindergarten basic skills instructional assistant. Number 5, employment school aides. Number 6, transfer non-certificated staff. Number 7, full-time teaching staff. Sorry. Number 8, part-time teaching staff. Number 9, movement on guide. Number 10, school psychologist, 2023-2024 school year. Number 11, certificated administrators, 2023-2024 school year. Number 12, non-aligned certificated administrator. 13, non-aligned non-certificated administrators. Number 14, non-aligned support staff, 2023-2024 school year. Number 15, secretarial personnel, 2023-2024 school year. Number 16, bookkeeping and clerks, 2023-2024 school year. 17, special education instructional assistants. I'm going to leave the year out. Number 18, kindergarten basic skills instructional assistants for the school year. 19, courier 2023-2024 school year. 20, bus drivers hours and salaries, 2023-2024 school year. 21, bus attendants, hours and salaries, 2023-2024 school year. 22, computer technicians, 2023-2024 school year. 23, computer technician, technician 2, 2023-2024 school year. 24 is district network technician, 2023-2024 school year. 25, registered nurse for 2023-2024 school year. 26, stipend mentor teachers. 27, student observation. 28, amended substitute rates teachers. 29, amended substitute rates, non-certificated positions. 30, substitute teachers. 31, substitute couriers. 32, substitute secretaries, transportation. 33, paid medical disability leave. 34, unpaid leave of absence. 35, amended resolution, leave dates.
I think
That's
you've
it. That's
reached
the
the
last
end.
one,
So you,
right?
now you just have to say, I so move.
I so move.
Great job. Second?
I second.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt? Mr. Lalansky?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz? Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
And Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have some retirement comments. Okay, so these retirement comments are for Nancy Walker. Very sad to see her go. Nancy Walker began her career with the Marlboro Township Public School District in September 1991 as a school bus driver. Nancy worked her way up the ladder and transitioned to the district registrar in July of 2005. After serving 3 years as the registrar, Nancy was promoted to assistant transportation coordinator in July of 2008 and finally to transportation coordinator in July of 2013. During her 33 years of service to the district, Nancy has done an exemplary job and has worked seamlessly through a myriad of changes in the transportation department and the district. As an example of how times have changed, when Mrs. Walker was hired as a bus driver, there were 6 schools in the district with a student population of 3,790. Today, the districts boasts 8 schools with total student population of approximately 4,500. During her tenure with the district, student enrollment was as high as 6,163. Nancy was a fast learner, gaining a wealth of knowledge on transportation operations in addition to the laws and regulations associated with student transportation. Nancy is known to listen, suggest beneficial changes in procedures to improve transportation operations, and is always available to assist parents, students, and staff. Nancy's knowledge of the transportation department and her ability to manage her staff has been vital to maintain efficient operations to make sure that the children get to and from school on time safely. During COVID, when the district was remote, Nancy worked with Chartwells to deliver student meals. This allowed the children to receive meals each day, as well as keeping the drivers employed during this unprecedented time. Nancy will be greatly missed by everyone in the district. We wish Nancy the best of luck with the next chapter of her life, as she gets to spend lots of time with her husband, children, grandchildren, and 2 retrievers. The countless amount of hours and days Nancy spent to make this district a better place will never be forgotten.
Any other comments? Anything else? Okay.
Just want to give a shout out to Nancy too, though, because she's the first face that you see when you transfer to MTPS. So she was very welcoming in our transition, and I almost feel like she knows the route of every kid in this district. So I just want, as a parent, to thank her too. She'll be missed by us as well.
Absolutely. You'll see on the agenda there's the presentation, the School Ethics Act and Code of Ethics. Because the meeting is running a little bit longer and we still have closed session and executive, we're going to postpone that until our next meeting, just for all of you to know that. So we will move down, Michael Wolonsky, to Policy Development and Community Relations Matters. Yep, we're just not doing the presentation that Mr. Zittimer was presenting on an annual basis. When we have new board members, or just for the board in general, you have to have a code of ethics training. It's a requirement. So just that is being postponed until the next meeting. But you're just going to go to policy development.
Okay. Policy Development and Community Relations Matters. Superintendent of Schools submits the following resolutions for 1. Code of Ethics. 2, approval of 24-25 school year calendar. 3, job description, transportation coordinator. 4, second readings of policy 2270. 5, first readings of 5611, 5613, 8220, 8421, 9150, 9191. I so move.
Any second?
Second.
Aldo, thank you. Any discussion?
Can we discuss the school calendar? There was some social media discussion today about the snow days. Can you just elaborate for us how the snow days are, accounted into the calendar?
Sure, I can speak about this year first, and then next year. So generally speaking, you can look at a calendar in 2 different ways. You can build snow days in, or you can account for days in the event that we have snow. That may sound very similar to you out there, but there is a slight nuance. When you build snow days into a calendar, if they're not used, we then give them back, which means a scheduled school day now becomes a day that students and or staff are not in school.
Like a 4-day weekend kind of situation?
Could be.
Okay.
Right, like a give back during Memorial Day weekend. Let's say if we were scheduled to be in the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, we could potentially give back that day and then no longer have that day, right? But that presents issues. When I took over HR a few years ago, that presents HR issues, right? Especially when you have a collective bargaining agreement where you have staff members who are restricted on the days that they can and cannot take off, especially attached to a school closing. So what I found to be more effective, I won't call it building snow days in, but it's a plan in the event that we have snow. So for this year, as by way of example, we have 3 days built in the event of snow. So if the snow happens prior to President's Day, don't quote me, I think it's February 21st, somewhere around there. If we need to close school due to inclement weather prior to that date, that will be our first day that we are in. Then we have 2 days at the end of the school year. On the current school year calendar, they are gray in color. Again, the dates probably aren't correct in my head, but it's the last Thursday and Friday of that last week of school. I want to say it's the 20th and 21st, but don't quote me on that. I don't have it in front of me. In the event that there are additional snow days, those would be the 2 days we would tack on. Now, historically, well, I'm actually not even going to say it. We'll just leave it at that. For next year, we have a very similar approach, except next year we went a little deeper and went into spring break if needed, right? So we actually planned for 5 potential days that we could use in the event that we have snow. So again, it's a nuance, it's language. We do have snow days, I'll call them, we have a snow day contingency plan in this year's calendar, and we also have one in the calendar that's being approved tonight.
Can we just reiterate, if parents don't feel safe, that they could just have their kids stay home?
Parents always have that option. I actually spoke with a parent this morning about that.
Okay.
You always have the option if you don't feel safe, and we are open for whatever reason, you can always keep your child home.
Absolutely. And just another thought on, just another piece to that. If you have any questions regarding the calendar or snow days, by all means, please reach out to Mr. Balone. That doesn't really fall under the board's jurisdiction. We don't select the snow days. We don't call the delays. We don't call the snow days. So you can always reach out to Mr. Balone if you're concerned with the school being open on a day that you feel it shouldn't have been. So just wanted to clarify that. Anything else?
No.
I have a question.
Oh,
Mr.
go ahead.
Balone,
I'm sorry.
Mr.
Yes.
Balone, when you're preparing the school calendar, who else besides you is involved in that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So generally speaking, we share it with the sending districts, the sending pre-K through 8 districts to the Freehold Regional. I also consult with the Freehold Regional School District. I also consult with the board. So this was prior, I think in December, we brought the draft to the board. There's input. So we look at, we utilize a lot of different avenues for input. I also share it with the MTEA, Teachers Union, also the MTAA. We also have an administrative discussion about it internally at an admin meeting. And there's a lot of great feedback that comes from all different angles. When we think we have it in a really good spot, we bring it to the board for a discussion and then ultimately for approval. We also, just for your edification, I think being new board members, we also, this board has welcomed the various holidays that are out in our community. We can't necessarily honor every single holiday, but we do take feedback from our community in some of the holidays that are requested from time to time. The 24-25 calendar was particularly challenging, but we still were able to accommodate holidays like Lunar New Year, Diwali, and Eid, which have been historically over the last couple of years holidays we have wanted to include in our calendar, so we were able to do that. Welcome.
Just a couple of things regarding the policies. Yes, we talked about 9191, so moving past that one for a moment. there are just a couple that I want to draw your attention to. So 8421 is the threat assessment team. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that one, again, is one that has evolved, right? It was put in place in August when threat assessment teams had to be formulated. So sometimes you'll see in policies that are out for first and second read, you'll see that there are times when we have to escalate to law enforcement, and that's where we've also added the addition of the threat assessment teams as well. The other one that's there is ironic, was school day closings. So we actually just revised that one in the policy committee, and then it came up today, right, with the delay, or is the school going to close, whatever it might be. The change, though, that you'll see there, the addition to that policy, is that if the school was going to close for more than 5 days, right, the superintendent would then confer with board leadership. So it lives in more of a collaborative spirit between all. And then if there's any sort of dispute, then the whole board will come together to work with Mr. Ballone. So that's an addition to that. Other than that, before the 5 days, right, it lives with administration, with Mr. Ballone, and that's not really a call of the board. So we're not involved in that piece. I just wanted to clarify. So that's a good one in there, and then you'll see the other one. So any other discussion? Okay. And I just want to say thank you, Policy Committee. You're wonderful, and I appreciate you so much. Yes, go ahead.
Since we voted on 9191, when we vote on the rest of these, are we going to eliminate that one?
So the question that she has
Because we
is,
voted
some
on
of
that
them
one already.
voted to postpone, so they voted no to postpone
So that, yeah.
the Education Foundation. So her question is, how do they vote on that one?
It's up to you. It's on the floor tonight for approval, so you could either vote yes if you.
But we have all the rest of them,
She wants to
too.
vote yes.
So like these
Yeah,
other
you
ones,
can
I'm-
call out the ones that you want to vote yes for,
Yes.
and call out the ones that possibly you want to vote no for or
Yes.
abstain from. So just identify the ones that you're voting differently on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Balomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Wait.
There's, I'm going to go back.
Except 9191.
Vinnie.
My bad. Let me go
Aditi
back.
needs to fix her vote, she said, for the policy.
Okay. Go ahead,
My
Mrs.
apologies. Yes to policy 5611, 5613, 8220, 8421, 9150, and no to policy 9191.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Hyatt, you were yes to everything but no to 9191. Dr. Miskowitz?
I also am going to vote no for 9191, and all the rest, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Petruno?
Yes.
Mr. Lolansky?
Yes.
And Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, liaison reports. So I just want to start off by thanking all of you. You are new liaisons, some of you have already been doing it, and so I know you were reaching out to people, and so I just want to say no pressure if you couldn't reach them. I know some of you were having some challenges, but I want to thank you in advance for trying your best and reaching out to everybody. So the first one is Freehold Regional, which is Chad.
Sure. I think that's bad. That better?
No, you have to do it for the people at home.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Michael actually got back to me today.
Okay.
So just a couple updates with Freehold Regional. Obviously, they had elections. They have 4 new members. Michael Messinger from Marlboro, he will remain as vice president, and the president for the Board of Education for Freehold Regional hasn't changed, but they do have 4 new members through the election. I think the most recent and most relevant thing for our community is this Thursday, so January 18th, in 2 days, they're having 8th grade, what they call orientation. So basically, if you have a student going into Marlboro High School, this is specific to Marlboro High School, as an incoming freshman, it's about an hour. It goes pretty quick. I've gone to it twice, so it must be good if I've gone back. But they go through everything from their policies to their curriculum to sports to clubs, everything available. So if you do have children going into the high school, I suggest you go. It's very valuable. That's Tuesday. Obviously, if you can't make it, I believe they have a makeup, but just from my experience. But either way, you'll be able to talk to them. Just a couple other updates. They are starting a new tutoring program. They have a bunch of tutoring programs, but this is brand new. It's for juniors who have to take the math and language art test, and that test is in March. So they're going to start that tutoring program next month. And then finally, they are going through accreditation, which I know from experience in higher ed, at least, it's necessary, but it is pretty rigorous. I think all of the Freehold regional schools are accredited by Middle States, so they're just reissuing that accreditation. So hopefully we get that. It's important for many reasons, as everyone knows, but they're in the middle of that process now. They're up for accreditation this year, so they'll be busy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah.
MEF, Annette?
Yes, I have a message from the MEF. We are looking forward to hosting our annual Wizards basketball game on May 30th. We again are excited for this new transition of the Marlboro Educational Foundation and ask that you please be patient during this transition period.
Thank you. Marlboro Township, Michael?
Sure. The Alliance had their candlelight vigil in December. I'm just backtracking a little bit, but I wanted to spotlight that because it was an important event. The 2024 DPW official town recycling calendars are now posted on top of the township website and being mailed to your homes. The township online pet licensing portal is now open. Please notice that dogs and cats are required by state and local laws to be licensed every calendar year, no matter what date you license them in 2023. As long as their rabies vaccine is current, at that time you submit the form, you do not have to wait for the next year's shot. The Veterans and Volunteers Committee Hometown Heroes banner program. Heroes can include past and present armed force personnel and first responders. The flyer is sent via the weekend email update and is posted on the township website as well. Lastly, in order to ensure up-to-date information and schedule changes due to inclement weather, please visit the town's website and enter your email into the blue township email alerts box. And that's my report.
Awesome. Thank you. Monmouth County School Boards, Aldo?
Nothing to report on that one.
Thank you. NJSBA, Danielle?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Moving on to the PTA, PTO liaisons. Asher, Aldo?
Yeah, so Asher is having their 5th grade chorus concert and the kickoff of some monthly decade-themed celebrations leading up to Asher's 50th birthday party in May. So stay tuned, and there'll be an update about what to expect from that.
Thank you. Abbott, Chad?
This is specific to PTO or Abbott in general?
Just Abbott in general.
Okay, yeah, so I met with Mr. Perno today, so you all obviously saw his students, which was pretty remarkable how well they did. But I met with him today, and he gave me a bunch of updates. They're doing some wonderful things there. That school is amazing. But the one thing I do want to highlight, they're doing Valentine's Day stuff. They're having their winter concert, which I think we're all invited to. So if you guys can make it, that would be awesome. I think it's 3 days, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Yeah, they split it up.
Yeah, I think a bunch of us are going to go.
Awesome. Yeah. Great.
On different days.
Yes. Yeah, we can't have a quorum. And they're doing this, the PTO is doing a Rockness event. He wanted to highlight that. But I think the one thing he was really excited about, and which I think the students are excited about, is February 12th is the 100th day of school. And I guess that's really meaningful to them because they're new in school, a lot of them, right? 3, 4, 5, 6th graders. But they have a huge celebration. And it's, I think, more than just they've gotten through 100 days of school. I think, they learned to count to 100, for example, as part of kindergarten, as part of pre-K. So it's just this huge celebration, and he really wanted to celebrate that. And he wanted to thank Mr. Sheehan, PE, Mrs. Kardojeva, I hope I said that right, and Mrs. Fix from Art, who are leading that. So it sounds pretty awesome. I don't think we're invited to that particularly, but it'd be kind of cool. It's nothing like walking into a school with 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds to wake you up. So
yeah,
it's good.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Defino, Aditi.
I first want to thank you for all your help with trying to get
And
me
and
internet.
too.
Yes, and you too.
Nicole wants you to have her number. I'll make sure I get to you an executive.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So the Defino PTO has always done really great things, and this year is no different. They have the Elves program, which is, so the PTO Elves have been extremely busy this month, granting wishes in the form of grants to all classrooms, and they're going to be delivering some fun Defino swag to all of their staff tomorrow. The ugly sweater contest, the class parents decorated ugly sweaters with their classes during the winter parties, and now it's going to be voting time. Students will vote with their spare change during lunch for the next week to pick the winner in each grade, and all proceeds benefit Alex's lemonade stand. And last year they were able to raise just over $1,000, which is great. It gets the kids really excited. I know my daughter does it too. You know, they vote for the best ugly sweater. And this is, I guess, their small but important way of giving back to the greater community. Paint night is it's going to be led by everyone's favorite Mr. D, and it is back for 2024 as well. It will be held on February 1st and will feature a Valentine's Day theme for our budding artists. The school store takes place the first Friday of every month, so they will be back during lunch starting on February 2nd. Valentine's Day, the PTO has a lot in store for Valentine's Day. They will be selling Valentine's Day grams once again this year with the opportunity to have a special gift and note waiting on your student's desk the morning of 2/14. They'll also be introducing a Valentine's Day photo booth during lunch on the 14th of February. More info to come. Lastly, they'll be celebrating the sweetest staff with a hot cocoa bomb buffet on the 16th. They're doing lip sync again. That is back. They're so excited to bring this awesome event back for the students. The performance will be held on March 22nd at MMS. And the final update for the PTO is also the Bingo Bonanza. They are so excited to bring back Defino's beloved Bingo Bonanza. It's going to be taking place on March 8th with some amazing prizes, including designer bags, baskets from local stores, the latest tech, and more. Registration will open later this week, so keep an eye out for that. And if you'd like to donate or volunteer, please reach out to the definopto@gmail.com.
Thank you so much. Dugan, Danielle?
I want to just say thank you to Robin for giving me this great report and keeping me in line and up to date on what I should be reporting here. So we are excited about our indoor recess boxes. Each class was able to receive an indoor recess box filled with games to enjoy during the winter months. So that was fully funded by the PTA, the PTO, and the student feedback has been phenomenal on those. We've already heard from teachers as well as the students themselves. So that was an exciting endeavor. We want to just say thank you to everyone who signed up for our talent show. We are excited for There's No Business Like Snow Business. If your child is signed up for a solo or group act, the in-person pre-screening has been rescheduled to January 30th. It was supposed to be today, but they had moved that from 5 to 6 p.m. If you are submitting a video of the act, that is still due on January 26th. Please see email sent for information regarding the video submission. Pre-registration is open for the Valentine's Day dance on February 2nd. Please see PT board for information regarding session times and to pre-register. The registration closes on January 26th. Volunteer slots have been completely filled for the first session of the Valentine's Day dance, but there are limited spots still available for the second session of the dance. If your child is in grades 3 through 5 and you're interested in volunteering, please see the PT board sign up. This year, the yearbook cover design contest is open for all 5th grade students. Design submissions are due by January 31st. For information about the requirements and how to submit a design, please see the Dugan e-blasts. Also, in the Dugan e-blast, the launch of the apparel sale, it will be launching next week with all brand new styles for the winter and for some spring designs as well. In that e-blast as well will be the Valentine snack sale and then the Valentine gifts for the students.
Awesome, thanks. Thank you so much. Maurel, Dr. Miskowitz?
I had a wonderful time meeting with Mr. Schatz and the PTO president. It was so nice being in a school again. I love, it made me want to come and work for you rather than sitting here. But that will have to be another lifetime from now. But in the meantime, they are having a bingo night on January 19th, and they're having Dining for Dollars at Chick-fil-A on January 31st. Their 5th grade concert will be February 6th, and they're having heart-shaped pizza fundraiser, so make sure you look out for that because the pickup is going to be on the 13th. You don't want to miss that. The yearbook sales are underway, and the school store is going to start up again January 19th.
Thank you. And for Memorial, the Builders Club collected 260 toys for the Toys for Tots fundraiser. Memorial would like to thank everyone who donated to help make a child's holiday special. Along with the help of the PTA, Memorial was able to distribute 21 gift cards and 1,311 food items to families in need, thanks to the incredible generosity of the parents and staff. They have ongoing sales for discount cards, magnets, and birthday grams. There will be a new fundraiser for Valentine's Friendship Day. Donation of the tables and umbrellas was made for the courtyard, so thank you for that. The 8th grade winter concert was last week, and DeFino's 5th grade concert attendees actually came and joined the 8th graders for a song and performed 2 of their own, and next week is the 7th grade concert. So thank you, Memorial. And then Michael, Marlboro Middle.
Yep. From Principal Milwaukee, we have one more winter concert on January 18th at 7 p.m. January 29th is the beginning of the second semester and third marking period. Students will have new related art classes for this new semester. 6th grade students will take the COAC test on February 7th and 8th. More information to come from the curriculum office. Winter sports are underway. Basketball teams, cheerleaders, and wrestling teams are doing great. We have lots of spectators in the stands cheering the teams on. It's great to see the team spirit. We are practicing every day for this year's production of Beauty and the Beast Jr. More information will be shared shortly. From Lauren at the PTA. Send a sweet treat to your child this Valentine's Day. Your student will receive a voucher for a free order of churros from the cafeteria as well as Airhead candy. Churro voucher and candy will be on the front of their lockers when they arrive in school on 2/14. Valentine grams will just have a message that says, wishing you a sweet Valentine's Day. Students will not know who sent it unless the sender tells them. It will be a fun surprise. Valentine's grams will be available on sale to students for purchase for friends during the lunch period on Thursday, February 8th and Friday, February 9th. Cost is $3. Deadline to order is February 12th. Orders can be placed on the PT board. Buffalo Wine Wings Dine Out fundraiser, Friday, January 26th all day. Please help us raise money for the kids. Enjoy lunch or dinner at Buffalo Wild Wings of Marlboro. 20% of the sale will go to the PTO. Help spread the word to local friends and family. You have to show the flyer for us to get the money. Spirit Wear. We still have some in stock for MMS class of t-shirts. Only 7th grade left. Get them before they're all gone.
Awesome. Great stuff at Marlboro Middle. Annette, Robertsville.
Last but not least, Robertsville. I have 2 messages to report, one from Mrs. Green, one from the PTO. First from Ms. Green, thank you both for your reports. The Read to Dog program is on January 17th, tomorrow, which is a special education program. Students will have the opportunity to practice their oral reading in a non-judgmental environment. The new senior volunteers, in collaboration with the Township Senior Center, will be guest readers on January 24th. This program is open to all classrooms. From the PTO, the Robertsville PTO meeting has been canceled this week and will be rescheduled for a later date. We had an overwhelming amount of 5th grade lip sync host responses, and we cannot wait for auditions, which have been rescheduled for next Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. The school store is this Thursday, January 18th. Lip syncing performances can still be submitted through the Google form, but hurry, the cutoff is this Thursday. Don't forget the book club starts on the 25th. Valentine's Day will be here before we know it. Keep an eye out for our heart-shaped pizza sale. And last but not least, Game Show Night is this Thursday, the 18th. Game Show Night is a high-energy, super fun family event that shouldn't be missed. Get your tickets online at Robertsville PT Board before the sale ends tomorrow evening. For an added bonus this year, Chick-fil-A will be available for purchase 1 hour before the show. Don't cook. Come have dinner with all your friends from school before enjoying the show. That's all.
Awesome. Thank you, Robertsville. Okay, Scope, Aditi.
Sorry. The Special Children's Organization for Parents and Educators, they cordially invite the members and non-members to join them for a family event at Strathmore Lanes in Aberdeen at 3 p.m. on Sunday, February 25th, 2024. This is not a drop-off event, so it is a wonderful opportunity for parents to connect. The price per bowler is $20 for members and $25 for non-members. This includes bowling shoes, drinks, and a $10 arcade card and an hour and a half of bowling. So if you want to register for this, please email register at scopemarlboro.ptboard.com. Spots are limited, so please be sure to RSVP by February 16th. They're also pleased to announce that the review process for teacher grant submission is complete now. They have diligently evaluated each proposal with the Special Services Department and are currently finalizing the allocation of grant funds. Award recipients will be officially announced at the next Board of Education meeting. So you'll hear that here. We commend all of the teachers who submitted proposals for their dedication and commitment to innovative educational practices. Their ideas and dedication is truly inspiring for them. Additionally, they're looking forward to a meeting with Special Services and CPAG in February, so stay tuned for many more exciting events like that.
Thank you very much. CPAG, Dr. Miskowitz.
I did not get to meet personally with the CPAG chair people, but they did email me, and they're hosting a meeting titled Disney for All Abilities at the Rec Center, which will be on January 22nd at 7 p.m. I encourage all parents that have young children or children with disabilities to attend the meeting so you can find out all about Disney.
Thank you. Anybody have any old business they'd like to discuss? Okay. New business?
Actually, yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Aldo.
I just wanted to bring something to the board just to see everyone's thoughts on it. As we were filling out the committee forms, I was looking, I had gone on the internet to just look at like other school districts to see how they operate and what, how the committees are made up. And like I saw that there was a couple committees that we don't have, and I just wanted to bring them to everyone's attention to see if they feel like there's something that maybe we do need. One was finance, but I feel like we do a pretty good job. I didn't think that was I don't think any of these are issues for us. I think we do cover all of these. I just wanted to, with Vinny's budget presentations, I think we go, pretty well into depth. But that was, finance was one of them. The other was operations, and the third that I kept seeing repeatedly was transportation. So I just wanted to put it out there just to see everyone's opinion, if they thought, it was something that we did need or not. As the chair of the Buildings and Grounds Committee last year, I feel like we do touch on transportation quite a bit, as far as like the upkeep of the facilities and everything. So I feel like that may, fall into that category. Operations, I'm not really sure, and finance, I just wanted to put out there. But I just wanted to bring it to everyone so that if you guys wanted to have a discussion on it, we could.
Yeah,
Just to let
I know
everyone
we talked about that before, and I thought that was a nice idea you brought up. I think the finance is nice too, the way we have it as a committee of the whole, right?
Yeah.
So there's either a committee of a whole, which means the whole board discusses it, and then there's like your smaller committees. So for me, I'm okay with that one. Transportation, I think it is in Buildings and Grounds, but maybe you all feel like it should be a separate one, and I'm there with you if that's what you're thinking. I am interested, though, in the operations one, right? And I think I'd like to know more about that one and what it includes, or do we build it up from scratch? I think that one would be pretty cool to, at least for me, learn more about. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and I'm happy if if that's the case, I can try and pull some information on, the description of the committees. I don't know if those are on the district websites, but I can certainly take a look before the next meeting and then bring it if you want. Also, as far as transportation, if that's something that you did want, I think that's something that we could probably add to Buildings and Grounds, like I said, because it's like we really do cover, probably most of what that committee would do anyway with Buildings and Grounds. But Again, completely up to the board. I just wanted to bring it up to everyone's attention.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, obviously, what does everybody else think?
I appreciate the research. I like that you kind of just wanted to get a gauge on what our surrounding districts were doing. But I do think we're functioning at a pretty efficient, with covering all the bases kind of level. So maybe it's something we can discuss in executive. I like it.
Yeah, I was just going to say I actually agree with Val. I think I'm definitely more interested in learning a little bit more about what operations, basically, what that would include. And I think buses are an important topic to discuss, but the fact that LG just mentioned that is, discussed extensively with buildings and grounds, I don't know if we really need another committee, but as long as it's addressed, because I know that is something that typically comes up with, like, just being in the community, hearing from parents, and just, so, but yeah.
Anybody else?
I have some new business, but I know that we've been here a long time, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Since once you are sworn in as an elected official, you kind of lose a little bit of that First Amendment right when it comes to social media. So I just wanted to take a moment here in this forum where, a forum has been created for me to even make a statement. I have a great respect for the people that supported me when I ran for the Marlboro Board of Education, and I have no intention on ever resigning. So I don't want anyone thinking that there's a pattern going on, but I just would like to speak for myself that this is a hard job, and sometimes that involves making hard decisions, and I know what I signed up for. So I can't really speak much else on that. I just wanted to reiterate that I am not going anywhere. That's it.
Thank you, Annette. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. Public comments? Anybody?
I have no one on my list. Would anybody like to speak? Seeing none.
Okay. Motion to close public comments. Annette? Second? Aditi? Any discussion? Okay. Public, all in favor? All right. Public comments are closed. Okay. Executive session resolution. Do I read this now? Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlboro Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to the exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10.4-12 for the purpose of discussing matters of attorney-client privilege and personnel matters. It is anticipated that the length of this executive session will be 60 minutes, and that action will not be taken in public after the executive session. We will adjourn the meeting in executive if nobody is out here. If people are out here, we'll take a look. If you're going to wait, and we will adjourn out here in public. If not, we will adjourn in closed session. Can I have a second? Dee Dee? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? All right. Motion to close the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.